Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Justice Revolution. I'm your host, James the Patriot. I have with me my ever so faithful co-host, Justice. Say hello, Justice.
Hey, folks.
So we're missing Erica today. She is actually stuck at the airport in a massive snowstorm in Indiana. So
she might try to log in. She might show up.
She might try and get here. She didn't want to have a lot of airport background noise going on. So that's why she's not with us today. But we do have a special guest with us. We have Kirk here with us from Kirk's Law Corner. Kirk, how's it going, man?
Pretty good, James. How are you, Justice?
I'm good. How are you?
Right. Braving this cold weather here in Idaho.
Well,
so that's my question. How's it up there in Boise?
It's about 32 degrees. My weather machine says it might snow.
Okay. Okay.
Not as bad as further north or east of us, but hey.
Well, we're light on the snow this year.
Yeah, we are. Yeah,
yeah.
We are actually too. Just the tippy tops of the mountains over here are covered. They're not.
Yeah.
By January, we usually have, a couple of feet of snow everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not complaining
that's usually how it is for us here too. I'm not either. Justice lives at 7,000 feet, so she's always got snow no matter what. But
yeah,
I'm down here in the valley at about 40. No, I'm not quite there. 4,000 feet, something like that. So I don't have any snow. Just looking outside, it's been a weird winter, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
I'm at about 2,700 here, and at the tippy top up there is above 7,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like right there.
Yeah.
Well, that's
where the snow is.
It's been a weird. I mean, there's so many things to talk about. I mean, this is our first show of this year of 2025. So today is January the 10th in the year of our Lord 2025. Where's the time gone? My goodness.
Boy, I can't believe it's already been 4 years.
I know. That's where I'm at too. I remember thinking the nightmare that went through all of this. And then now here we are 4 years later, and somehow we all survived. And maybe this is by design. I'm sure it is by design. I mean, there's so many theories out there and things that we could speculate on, but I'd rather not get into all that right now. There's plenty of time for that for other shows. But I will say I am wearing today a shirt that my mother-in-law gave me for Christmas, so you guys can see this.
Yeah. There you go.
So, and yep, that is the picture you can kind of see right here. It's got the blood down his face here. So, yep, that is when they took a shot at him. And it wasn't that. Don't let anybody fool you. It wasn't some 19-year-old punk kid who took a shot at him. So,
oh yeah.
Anyway, gosh, so much to talk about. Where should we begin? Do we start at the very beginning with the topic of the show today is what is lawful money, and do we have any? And this show has been brewing for quite some time. Justice and I have been working on some things behind the scenes. And Erica, I got to give credit where credit's due. Unfortunately, she's not able to join us just yet, but we've been working on some things behind the scenes in light of some life changes for me, which I think is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's just me. I think it's a good thing. But and what's crazy is how God has his plans, or maybe they're not necessarily his plans, but he just like, hey, because I believe in agency and because I believe in my children's ability to choose their own destinies, then we're just going to let things happen as they do. And so, but I believe we're all part of something bigger, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there's absolutely no coincidence that any one of us is alive today during what we're seeing, and that we have the talents that we have. I have a lot of respect for Kirk. I started listening to Kirk's podcast, I would say about a year and a half ago, maybe. And I was introduced to Kirk from a mutual friend of mine in Ohio. And what was interesting is when he sent me the text message and he says, just so you can see the other side of things. And at the time I was still new into this, but I was learning, the fundamental law, God's law of nature, law of man, and how they don't work together so well. And so I was like, okay, I'm an open-minded individual. I'll take a listen to it. And I just remember listening to what Kirk was saying. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's hitting spot on. It's like, you just know when you listen and when you hear something that you're like, something about this just sounds true. Whether it is or not, it just like, I have a feeling that this is the truth. This is what's been hidden from us. And then likewise, when you're listening to somebody spewing BS, you're like, okay, I'm not buying a word that this guy's saying. You guys know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yes. If you're spiritually in tune, if you've left God or don't believe in higher power, you're not gifted with your intuition, or some would say the Holy Spirit. And that's where you're led. That inner voice, that if you look back on your life and look at how many times you didn't listen to that inner voice and went, I should have listened, that's all the proof you should have. Mm-hmm. And it's mind-boggling to me that people just still don't tune in. But your inner spirit and your soul, I tell my kids all the time, listen to your gut. It will never lead you wrong.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And some people call it, a bullshit meter or, whatever, right? But it's your inner guidance from God, our creator, that's telling you yes or no, turn right or turn left. I totally agree with you, James.
No, and Kirk, and I don't know if I know we've had you on the show before, and I don't know if we've ever had you really give us a deep background of what got you started in all of this. And if I remember correctly, it was due to you were arrested or illegal trouble or something along those lines. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Maybe give us a 5 to 10 minute overview of what started you down the path of understanding and learning God's laws, the law of nature, the way the world is supposed to work, maybe, if you wouldn't mind.
All right. First, I'd like to start with just to touch on when you're listening to somebody, it's about vibrations, right? Mm-hmm. We have vocal cords, and it's the sounds that are coming out of our mouth, our speech is actually vibrations. Mm-hmm. So we pick up on that. We're supposed to sense that. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of that's been suppressed through poisons and all that stuff. But somebody like me who's been studying since 1995, not including school and the military, me personally, sitting in the jail cell and made a vow to God that I would start studying law so that I wouldn't get screwed like that again. Listening to somebody else talk about what they think the law is and that kind of stuff, it's like I automatically know they don't know, or if they do know, it resonates with me with what I've studied. Mm-hmm. Now, talking about inner voice, just real quick, I give you a quick deal. When I was out in Wisconsin with Field McConnell stuff, it was wintertime, roads are kind of wet and cold and all that stuff, and the speed limit there was 45, and I was coming into this kind of a lull dip in the road, and I couldn't see, up over the hill there, and my inner voice, it's God talking to me is the way I look at it, or guardian angel, whatever you want to look at it, listening to the world, and told me to slow down. Now, I'm a freaking gearhead race car mechanic. Me slow down?
Yeah.
For what?
If anything, I'm going faster.
I was going to say, gas is your friend. Gas is your friend. And I'm like, okay. And I was doing kind of right at 45, maybe 47. I wasn't pushing it because of the road conditions.
Mm-hmm. What was the speed limit?
Say again?
What was the speed limit?
45.
Okay.
So, I just barely doing over 45, just holding at 45 because of the road conditions.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, so I let off the gas. I slowed down to about 40. Just as I crested the hill, there was another car in my lane passing another truck. If I hadn't have slowed down, that would have been a head-on collision. Mm. There would have been, it was bad enough as it was after I had slowed down.
Wow.
So had I not slowed down that, 7-8 miles an hour when I did, which is before going down into the dip and then coming up, man, as soon as I crested, there's a car coming directly at me.
Yeah.
Just barely made it over.
Pretty amazing.
There's a thing about listening to our inner voice, God speaking to us.
I think we all have stories like that, huh?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I've got a few, but that one was a real like, I was just like, okay, thanks God, I'm glad I listened,
Yep.
and I thanked him right there. That's just kind of how I live my life. I'm
Right.
always in communication with God. So
Right.
for me, background story. Initially, it all really kind of started back when I was 14 and I was kidnapped by the CPS of the state of Washington, split up my whole frickin' family. And one of the kickers for it was the caseworker. I'd already been in foster care for several months at the time. And my caseworker flat out told me, well, if your mom loved you, you'd already be back home by now.
Ooh.
And that struck a chord in me. I stood up, reached across that desk, and socked her in the mouth.
You did?
Oh, absolutely.
Good for
Don't you ever talk bad about my mom like that ever again. So that's when I learned about corruption at 14 years old.
Wow. How many children would have fell prey to that, though, Kirk? That's the sad part, and fell prey to it every day.
Yeah.
At that time, I was a farm boy, packing 80-pound sacks of feed, bucking 75-pound bales of hay. Yeah, I might have looked like a scrawny little kid, but I was pretty strong. I socked her a good one.
And that's the value of a strong family, because when you have strong family ties, nobody can breach it. And that's what they keep trying to destroy. Yeah.
Yeah. They're trying to destroy the family unit, the bond, right?
Yeah.
So from there, getting into trouble with all this traffic stuff, no real crimes per se, what we would say mala in se, actually morally evil in and of itself. All of it's always been these, traffic crap and suspending my license and driving without privileges, which is what it was. And then found a folded up piece of paper in my wallet, which I totally forgot that it was there. And not enough there to even test or anything, but they try to say, oh, well, it's methamphetamine. The first test came back non-conclusive. They don't even know what it is. So anyways, there's just several things that happened there, but everything happens for a reason. And I guess the reason for me was to sit back and get back with God and, get in alignment with what God wanted me, because I was not going down a very good path at the time. So one, it was for me, but two, to see the corruption for myself, experience it for myself. And it's like, hey, here's the facts. What's the deal here? How come I'm not being effectively defended? Effective assistance of counsel here. And so I just need to speak this stuff myself. And so I just started studying from the jail cell. And one little success story out of that is another gentleman. He was into meth and cooking meth for himself and that kind of stuff. And we did a whole bunch of research on it. We actually beat his case.
Oh, yay.
From the jail cell.
Nice.
Hey, just me and him. So I was like, hey, that's pretty rocking. We, basically got it all dismissed because they violated his right, the Fourth Amendment right, search and seizure. He had no lawful authority to come on his property, to go into his home. They went in when he wasn't even there. So, yeah.
So do they provide you law books and stuff? Or, I mean, there was no phones or internet back then for you to.
Right. Yeah, we had a little tiny of a law library, and then they would only give us 1 hour per week.
Interesting that they provide that for prisoners, since it's a moneymaker, the jail,
Yeah. And so what we did is we just did a bunch of research, right? And we'd go down and, pull that stuff up, make copies, not actually doing any real reading, right? We just knew what we needed to get. And then take that back to our cell and frickin' study and research and formulate and all that stuff. And then go, oh, well, we need this. We'd make a list of all the things we would need. Okay, you're going to go get this stuff and I'm going to get this stuff. So, every week for 1 hour, we're in there just grabbing what we can. And so that's how that worked for about 3 months. We did that. and finally, be able to put the paperwork together and to win his case. So, I felt pretty good about that. I'm like, man, that's all it takes is a little bit of research and, their own stuff to use against them and the law. Now, I had a basic understanding of rights and stuff, from ninth grade, which here in Idaho at that time, 1987, 88 there, they had, they did teach us a little bit about the Constitution. We even had like a mock courtroom trial set up. I was the defender. I actually won my case.
Nice.
So, even from at a young age there, I felt like, man, this is really something I should get into, but I never really did.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the Marine Corps, they taught us the Constitution, the Geneva Convention, and some of the, law of war type stuff. So got a little more teaching on the Constitution and dealing with military law and what we can and cannot do. So that's basically my background for education stuff. And then in 95, just started studying for myself.
Nice.
And, not every day, my entire time from 1995 to now, but in the last 10 to 15 years, yes, it's been almost every day. I'm sitting down reading something for hours. There for a while when I was dealing with my own personal family law stuff, I mean, sometimes it was 16 to 36 hours straight of just studying and talking with people and researching and, and it just got to the point where I'm like, I'm going to do a deep dive. I'm going to go back to the beginning. We'll start with like Magna Carta 1215.
Yeah.
Let's see what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to the very beginning. I'm with you.
And then we get into the, crap, this laws of nature. And what triggered that was the New York State Rifle Pistol Association versus Bruin case regarding the Second Amendment and the right to keep and bear arms. And they cited Blackstone's commentaries on the law of England. And at that time, I'd had a PDF copy of it for about 3 years, but I was reluctant to read it because, it's England. That's English crap, They're the bad guys to begin with. Why would I even want to begin to read that? And so that spurred me to freaking, open it up. Let's take a look at it. And since then, one of my supporters here actually bought me the actual books.
Oh,
I have
nice.
all 4 volumes of these books. And as you can see, I've got my little tabs there and all sorts of stuff. With that, what I've been working on this week, which I just filed my paperwork yesterday, a motion to suppress and a motion to dismiss, memorandum of law and support. And I dug through Blackstone's commentaries on the law of England, Joseph Story's commentaries on the Constitution, and the law of nations. Those are my 3 primary sources. And then add in American jurisprudence, corpus juris secundum, and then some basic Idaho stuff and Idaho case law and some federal case law. But I'm very reluctant to use this case law stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm with you there too.
It's trickery. First, it's called stare decisis, which means previous decisions of the court. It's not law.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then what I try to explain to people, sure, reading case law is great. What you need to look for, what we need to look for, is the law they're citing. Not necessarily their opinion, but their findings of facts and conclusions of law.
That made the decision. Right.
Right. Based on their decision.
Mm-hmm.
So just like the New York State Rifle Pistol Association versus Bruin case, they went back to, the laws of nature and cited from Blackstone. So I went to that section and that's where it brings you right into the 3 primary absolute rights from the laws of nature, that life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And the Declaration of Independence is actually personal security, personal liberty, and private property. And then Blackstone breaks those down and talks about how they are. And that's the root of all law. All law is based off the laws of nature. And any man-made law that comes in conflict with the laws of nature is void for any effect on its face.
Yeah.
That's the key. But you have to know what your rights are.
You know, this is a perfect segue right into what we wanted to talk about today. So finish up your thought real quick, and then let's jump into that segue, because I think this is where the confusion out there amongst I don't know what you want to call them, the patriot groups or the groups that are, let's just call us what we are. We are Americans looking for liberty. Let's just call it what it is. So, sorry, Kirk, not to interrupt you.
No worries. Magna Carta, what is it? It's the Great Charter of Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
There are people, oh, well, it's Great Charter. Yeah, of what? Of liberty. So, again, you know, where do these rights actually come from? They come from God. God is the sovereign. Sovereign means creator, has the power to create. And sovereign also means that if you're the creator, you have the power to control that which you create. Okay? So to apply it to, say, like family law stuff, well, I'm the father. I created my son.
Yep.
Notice the words that I'm using. Diction, jurisdiction. It's not parent and child. It's father and son.
Right.
Father and daughter. And no man, see, man, not person.
Right.
No man has a higher authority over my son than me.
Right.
So if you know your status as father, that's the person. Father. I act as father. I'm an actor. I act. Because of my son, that imposes a duty upon the mother and the father to take care of their son or daughter. Not parent and child. Parent and child falls under that parens patriae, where the state is the parent. So just to kind of lead into that, and then we go into man-made law, the right of the people, to law of nations, right? It's in there in book 1, chapter 3, I think, or chapter 1, section 3 there, about the people is the state.
Yeah.
Just like when we say church is the people. So the state is made up of the people. The people have all the political power. That's the sovereign body politic. We create the policy for government. We actually create the government, the Constitution, which is what we're going to read from here in just a minute about the subject of today's class.
Class, education, happy hour, clown show. Just insert whatever you want right here.
Well, just don't call it legal advice.
It's not that.
This is about education. I'm all about education. Knowledge is power. Without the power, we have no knowledge. We have no power.
Right.
So the Constitution is the instrument of government created by the people themselves. It is the supreme written will of the people and how they choose to be governed. So in our form of government, a capitalist confederate republic, we are a confederacy, a union of states, a league of friendship, a confederacy. And that's in Montesquieu and his Spirit of Laws, of the different forms of government, especially under a republic. You got a monarchy, you got a republic, and then you have a despotic government, which is what's elucidated in the Declaration of Independence about despotism and a despotic government.
Yeah.
Montesquieu lays that all out in his Spirit of Laws books. So you have a democracy, an aristocracy, or a confederacy. That's basically your three choices of a republic, a Republican form of government. Well, we chose a confederacy. Even before the Arms of Confederation, we were already a confederacy, colonies, and there was already a league of friendship.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
When people, I try to tell people that when they get up there and go, it's a threat to our democracy, I tell them, you got to think, you're damn straight it is.
You're damn straight it is.
It is. We are a threat to their
democracy,
democracy.
not my republic.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So
and that's what they mean. That's exactly what they mean.
If we are a democracy, we are one step away from communism.
Well, they are a democracy.
Yeah.
I mean, they've created one for themselves.
Yeah.
And then they altered the fundamental law from the common law to Roman civil law, the code.
Right.
Yeah.
And actually, my brother Rob, he he found out that it was actually started in New York and California clear back in 1854, I believe, before Congress did the Code of Civil Procedure Act in 1873. Idaho did it here in 1881 during the legislative sessions, the 11th legislative session in 1881, before we even had a constitution.
Yeah.
So things were happening with the Reconstruction Acts, and we were switching over from the common law to Roman civil law, the code.
Well, so let's give people, I think this is a great point to get that segue into today's topic. How did we get here? How did it get so freaking messed up? So I think what you're hinting on, Kirk, is a great segue in the fact that what was so significant in this time frame, 1870 to 1875, what happened? Well, we all know, and if you don't, you're living under a rock. There was the Civil War. The Civil War that really tore this nation apart. What you had was the League of States, or the Confederacy of States, excuse me, where they were all united for the common goal. And then ultimately some people decided, well, that's not our goal anymore, so we're going to leave. So South Carolina, first one to go. And then more and more southern states followed. And it wasn't particularly just the southern states. And don't let anybody tell you that this was just a slavery issue. Right. That was at the very top, but it wasn't the only issue. There was a number of other issues.
Actually,
there were a number of other issues, and we don't have enough time today to go into all of those issues. But believe me, I would love to. So what do we have?
I have one little piece of pertinent
information. Yeah, go ahead.
So Andrew Jackson actually paid off the national debt.
That's where I'm getting to.
Okay,
that's what I'm getting to. No, you're good. Go ahead.
So when he paid off the national debt, it was time to give everything back that was held in trust from the first bankruptcy, which was technically 1787, 1789, with the ratification of the fraudulent Constitution to begin with. So, again, I don't want to go way off in a rabbit hole, but documents illustrative of the formation of the Union of the American States, the secret debates and proceedings in 1787. That is a great read because it exposes the fact that the delegates that were sent had no lawful authority to subvert the Articles of Confederation. They were supposed to be making legislation regarding, an amendment to the Articles of Confederation to regulate foreign commerce.
So to what confederation? Say that more clearly.
The Articles
of Confederation was the law at the time for government. That was
the pre-Constitution. Think of it that way, the pre-Constitution.
Yeah.
That's what that was what was put in place immediately at the end of the Revolutionary War. When Britain surrendered, that's the 13 colonies that were still here. They got together and they ratified the Articles of Confederation.
Okay.
1881.
I thought you said artists.
1781.
17.
And I'm like, I never heard of artists, so you're saying articles. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So that's what I was going to touch on real quick is what other things out here are we aware of that does articles in a document?
Contracts.
Imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
Articles of Confederation. Even the Constitution is written in articles. It's a compact, a social compact, a contract.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Article 6, Clause 3. We require all the members of the legislative, executive, and judicial, both state and federal, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support the Constitution, not interpret it, not to subvert it.
Yeah.
So it's written in the form of a contract, and only those that are bound by it have entered into that contract. So the Constitution doesn't apply necessarily to the people, and anything made under the provisions of the Constitution still doesn't apply to the people.
Not unless we take an oath to support it.
Well, or we enter into a contract.
There you go.
Like act a corporation in law. We incorporate into the body politic, and then the corporation is regulated by policy known as statutes. Mm-hmm. Now, this is where you get into the sovereign.
Yes.
We, the people, delegated sovereignty to the legislature to take care of corporations. And under the general welfare clause is to protect us, right? Because everything is about defense.
Mhm.
from things that may cause injury, loss, or harm to the people. And it's very clear that Congress, our state legislatures, the executive, and the judicial, all of it has been derelict in that primary duty that's enumerated in the preamble, the general welfare clause. That's totally been blown out of proportion of what it's actually meant to be, who it applies to, personal jurisdiction. Just all of my research, and I'm figuring this stuff out, and it's just like blowing me away. It's all just completely corrupt.
Oh yeah.
The whole thing.
So let's okay. So the question is, how did we get here, right? It wasn't just one event. It was a series of events over decades and even centuries, right? So let's go back. So Kirk brought up 1787. So the Constitution was allegedly ratified in 1787, September 17th, 1787, which is why I love September. I mean, not just because I was born.
It was passed by the delegates, Congress.
The delegates, right? Yeah, but it still had to be ratified by each one of the
states until 1789.
There you go, which is when it officially became correct. Yes, let's make sure we get it right. Thank you, Kirk.
Which is actually in direct violation of the Articles of Confederation. You have to have unanimous all states in order for it to be ratified. But
it wasn't 3/4 of the. That's right.
No,
right?
No. Articles of Confederation said all of the states when you're going to make amendments to the Articles of Confederation, not for the other section there about 9 states. That's not for altering the Articles of Confederation.
And that's important to know, right? I mean, because how can you establish a new nation if everybody's not on board? How does that work? How can you establish a new nation? It
wasn't supposed to alter the nation, America, as the nation, or the Confederacy, because it's even in the preamble.
Yeah,
we the people, in order to form a more perfect union. So we already had a perfect union. This was to make it more,
to make it more gooder, as I like to say.
More gooder,
more better.
So James, you say how can you do it if everyone's not on board? And if you see what's going on today, they basically figured out they do it and see if they can get away with it.
Yeah,
they do it and see what you're going to do about it. And when when nobody does anything, they keep doing it and keep doing it, and it's just compounded on itself. And here we are.
Over years. Yeah, and so
that's exactly what's in the secret debates and proceedings. Well, we know that we're exceeding our powers because there were several of the delegates said, "Hey, I'm not signing on to this. I'm not signing on to this." And then there's a small gap in time here, and then all of a sudden they come, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean what I said over there. That I'm not going to vote for this because we're usurping our powers."
Yes.
And what I said was, "Oh, well, we're just going to go ahead and do this, knowing that we're not supposed to. We weren't delegated this power to basically subvert the Articles of Confederation and subvert what the intent was for the delegates to be sent to, make legislation regarding, well, not legislation. They were supposed to amend the Articles of Confederation to add the delegation of power to regulate foreign commerce and to deal with war, right? Protection of the nation.
Yeah.
And they openly admit this, which is why they wanted to destroy the records or at least seal them from ever being discovered. And then they said, well, we're just going to go ahead and do this. And then the people can deal with it if they don't like it.
Right. Which is like swimming upstream.
So instead, what actually happens is people go, oh, well, I guess this is the new law because this went through due process of law.
Yeah.
And things weren't readily available like they are today, where it's printed in a book, where you can actually find it online. They didn't have online. They didn't even have books to speak of back then that were actually available to the general public, to the people. You had to be a, law scholar or something like that before you'd even get your hands on any of those kinds of books.
Right.
And this is what I find is so interesting. I mean, look at all of this. And this is what I was explaining to Justice a couple of weeks ago when we went over some of this information. Here we are, 36 minutes getting to the topic of the show. It's okay. I love it. I'm a history nut. I love speaking history, and I love fellow Americans who love to talk history because it really helps us to set the foundation. And I'm a firm believer that if we don't understand how we got where we are today, how are we ever going to fix it? How are we going to ratify it? How are we going to
Right.
get it back to where we should be? So
Isn't there a saying that doing the same thing over and over again,
that's insanity.
expecting different results, is insanity?
Yeah, that's the Chinese definition of insanity. That's one thing they get right for sure. So,
and it's also how we got here, is a lack of understanding.
Yeah, and plus they happen to make pretty good technology too. But anyway, so aside from the fact, here's what I want to say that is interesting on all of this, right? So we had the original Articles of Confederation, which required a unanimous. They just said, "Oh, we're going to go ahead and usurp that power." So then they went ahead and instituted the Constitution, which I would say, for the majority of us that read the Constitution as it was written, as it is written, it's pretty freaking good. I mean, and if we were still adhering to the provisions of it, I don't think we'd be where we are today, but we're not. Mm-hmm. So again, there's a couple things I want to drop in here, because again, we mentioned, all of these things that were passed post Civil War, but that's not where the problem started. It started even before that. And I would dare say it started in 1787. I'm going to share, stop my screen share. I'm going to share a tab here, and I want to get some, debate, not debates, really just discussion over this issue right here. You ever have this discussion, Kirk? The battle over this national bank between Hamilton and Jefferson? You ever talk about that in history class at all?
I have talked about a little bit about that. Hamilton tried 2 different times about the international banking. He was successful during the Civil War, because we actually were whooping their ass big time.
In the Revolutionary War, you mean?
No, in the Civil War.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And because Alexander Hamilton did not succeed the first time around.
No, he did not.
And so their supply lines had gotten cut off. The British supply lines, we Americans here, we got them, right? And they were running out of ammunition. They were running out of food and water. We had them. But Alexander Hamilton got it pushed through for support, money, international banking.
Yeah.
And that's when they were able to get resupplied and got more support, and everything went downhill from there.
Yeah, this is what I find is fascinating. We're going to touch on a couple of these things here, because we're going to jump back and forth between the great debate between Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson of a national bank, and what the Constitution actually, what the delegated powers actually were, and what they were allowed to do. So real quick, this debate took place in 1787, and ultimately it culminated in 1791. And the whole background of this was Hamilton, who was one of the founding fathers. His name is signed on the Declaration of Independence, and he was one of the delegates of Congress. He says that the Constitution's the necessary and proper clause of Article 1 allowed for Congress to make laws and provisions that were not part of the enumerated powers, which I'm calling BS. Okay. I'm just holding up my BS. You can't see my little flag, but it's waving proudly. This is my BS flag. Hamilton, you knew better. And I know you knew better because of what you said previously. Now, why did he push so heavily for a national bank? Do you think maybe it's because of what Kirk just hinted on, where he was inviting foreign sources of money? Well, they want their money back, right? Money is the root of all evil. We've always heard that, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So money and power tends to corrupt, and ultimate power corrupts beyond measure.
Ultimately.
Yeah, I know. I knew I was saying that wrong. Thank you, Justice. So there was this great debate between Hamilton and Jefferson. Jefferson's like, no, we don't have that authority. That's unconstitutional. We cannot regulate. And furthermore, it's unfair of us to say, okay, South Carolina, you didn't have as much debt during the Revolutionary War as, say, New York did or Pennsylvania, but we're going to go ahead and punish you anyway because we're creating a centralized bank. So The debate went back and forth. Ultimately, Hamilton introduced a bill in 1791. It passed the House, it passed the Senate, and he was somehow convinced Washington to sign it into law. So it only had a 20-year charter. The National Bank was established, and it had a 20-year charter. And it expired at the end of the 20 years. So it went into effect 1791. What's 1791 plus 20? Anyone know?
1790, 1801, 1811.
1811.
Bingo. What happened? What happened then? Okay, two prominent figures.
1812.
Two prominent figures were coming up with two prominent things. One of them was a figure, one of them was a thing. The thing Kirk just mentioned, the War of 1812. Okay? What prompted the War of 1812? What started that, Kirk? Can you educate people?
I believe it had to do with the proceedings regarding Article 1, Section 9, Clause 8, the no titles of nobility clause.
Uh-oh.
And the proposed article of amendment, the original Article the 13th.
Okay,
which basically kicked the bar out of our form of government.
All right. So what was going on? Why was the original Article the 13th necessary? What was happening?
I believe they figured it out like Alexander Hamilton was a plant. He came in under Franklin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was supposedly a bastard child and all this stuff. And Benjamin Franklin took him in. Well, no, he was a plant. So I think some people figured it out, and they're all members of the bar holding that title of nobility of Esquire.
Okay.
Was already in the Constitution. So it's already unlawful and unconstitutional.
Okay.
This also is prima facie evidence of how we're supposed to make law. Why did they go into a constitutional convention to make an amendment to the Constitution? Why did they just do a statute that says, hey, if you accept a title of nobility from any king or prince, blah, 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 based on Article 1, Section 9, Clause 8, you cease to be a citizen of the United States and you cannot hold any office of public trust or either of them under the United States of America? Why did they just make legislation?
That's not in their
This is how we're
favor.
supposed to make law from the Constitution through an Article 5 convention.
It's not in their favor. They had a big plan.
I see right there to the original 13th Amendment. They're not amendments.
So here's something
articles.
Here's something interesting. This is from the 2023 Montana State Legislature. Montana wasn't even an inkling in someone's eye at the time the original 13th article to the Constitution was passed. Okay, but they recognized this and they passed a bill in 2023 that states, whereas in 1810, remember that date, in 1810, an amendment, well, we know that should be article, to the United States Constitution prohibiting titles of nobility was introduced by United States Senator Reed. It passed both houses of Congress and was sent to the states for ratification. It was ratified, and don't let anyone tell you it wasn't. It was ratified. But why is it hidden? This is why. If any citizen of the United States shall accept, now remember the word citizen, I'm going to have Kirk define that for us here in a minute. If any citizen of the United States shall accept, claim, receive, or retain any title of nobility or honor, or shall, without the consent of Congress, accept and retain any present pension, office, or emolument of any kind, whatever, from any emperor, king, prince, or foreign power, such person shall cease to be a citizen of the United States and shall be incapable of holding any office of trust or profit under them or either of them. Okay? Kirk, what is a citizen?
All right. Law of Nations, Book 1, Chapter 19, subsection 212, which is also where the Constitution refers to the president being a natural-born citizen as a qualification to run for the office of president.
Okay.
And they always cite Vattel, Section 212. This is the Section 212 that's referenced and related to a natural-born citizen. But it's also the definition of a citizen, which is a member of a civil society who is bound to perform certain duties and is subject to its authority. Oh,
Yeah.
that's Article 6, Clause 3. It says the members of the aforementioned state that are all the aforementioned senators, representatives, and the members of the legislative, executive, and judicial, both state and federal, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this. That's a citizen, a city servant or civil servant.
Okay. What have we all been led to believe that we are? The general layman and woman.
Yeah, we're the citizens of the United States.
Okay.
But read the 14th Amendment. What does it say? It talks about being born or naturalized in the United States.
Any person born or naturalized
and subject to the jurisdiction thereof.
Oh, wait a minute. Did you just say subject to the jurisdiction thereof? Ooh, I want to show you something else. Keep going.
Yeah.
And the word subject in its own.
Yeah, subject. That's a subject of the king.
Yes.
A loyal subject.
Yes.
Look
trickery.
Look at this right here. A person born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. All right.
Yeah. If you go into this stuff and do the deep dive on this 14th Amendment about what the person is that they're referencing there is the corporations.
Have you ever heard of the United States Supreme Court cases called the slaughterhouse cases?
Yes.
What was the significance of the slaughterhouse cases?
Honestly, right now, I don't recall. I haven't committed that one to memory yet.
So I can make it real simple for you. It clarified exactly what the citizen mentioned in the 14th Amendment was, who it applied to. And I did a show on this, and I went over Dr. Kirk. Is it Kirk Elliott? No. Dave Champion, excuse me. I went over a treatise that Dave Champion wrote on the 14th Amendment. If you haven't read that, Kirk, it's right up your alley, and you guys will be BFFs after you read it. I promise you, because it goes into full detail exactly who the 14th Amendment was written for and exactly who it applies to. And while maybe Congress had the best of intentions, I don't know, but the ultimate powers to be, use that as a way to usurp their power. And this is why this all comes full circle. This is why I was talking about the central bank. So you had the central bank that was created, had a 20-year charter. That charter expired. Congress never took action. We had the original 13th, the article to the Constitution was ratified. It was burned with the archives. The British burned it. Now, why would the British burn the White House and all the archives?
Yeah.
Could it be maybe the Bar Association, the British Accredited Registry? Okay. And don't let anyone tell you, because you can do a Google search and go, what does bar stand for? Oh, that's the thing where you cross the threshold and you're admitted to practice at the bar. Well, where does that term come from? It all comes from the old English courts, practicing law before the king. That's what that is. Mm-hmm. The Bar Association is a foreign power.
Yep. So I have a question.
Yes.
Based on the article that Montana is recognizing, that would mean, being the lawyers call themselves Esquire.
Yes.
That they are no longer citizens of the United States lawfully, according to.
Well, so you're correct. You're going down the right path.
Okay.
Because remember, a citizen, as the founders knew it and understood it, was a member of the body politic and a member of the civil society who was a servant to we the people.
Right, right.
So we the people, just the everyday man and woman living wherever you live on this great God's green earth, we are not citizens of anything. We're just here.
Right.
But we are a group of people who have common goals and common ambitions. And so we realize that, hey, because we all want to survive and thrive, let's work together for the common good. We're not a citizen.
Well,
But
we're citizens on paper because they tricked us.
exactly, and I'm getting to that. This is what I'm saying.
Where's my paycheck?
Right.
I'm getting to that, right? So you had all of this stuff that happened, the War of 1812. The British came in and burned the archives. They burned the White House. Who swoops in to rebuild everything? Lawyers, bars association attorneys. They come in and sweep everything. They still didn't have all of the power they wanted. They still didn't have all the power they wanted because one man stood in their way, Andrew Jackson. I am no Andrew Jackson fan as far as what he believed, because he believed that the Indians, and I'm using this term in a historical sense. I am no way firm believe this, but he believed that the Negroes were an inferior people. That's what he believed. However, he was a staunch non-supporter of any type of centralized banking system, and he paid off the national debt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, how do you control the people if you don't control their money source?
Right.
You can't, I was listening, and this is what prompted this, and this is why I asked Kirk to be on the show today. I was listening to his Kirk's Law Corner Monday Night Law that he does, and he was talking about money and how he says, hey, if I want to buy my neighbor's lawnmower, I want something of physical substance, something I can hold, that I can take in my hand. There you go. I've got one too, right here. I can take something in my hand and I can place it in their hand, and no one knows that transaction occurred except for me and my neighbor.
Yep.
Isn't that how it should be?
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's go back here to my screen share.
I want to say something real quick here about the intent. We see this when you go into the legislative intent. What was the intent of the 14th Amendment? Was for the recently freed Negro slaves from the 13th, the fake 13th.
The fake 13th.
Because slavery, if you read the Northwest Ordinance, slavery was already abolished clear back in 1787.
Mm-hmm.
Supposed to have been done per the Constitution by 1808.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at the statutes at large, started in 1794.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are we talking about slavery in 1870s, 1860s?
Well, and so here's the interesting thing, right? So we just had, fast forwarding from 1812 to 1870. And yes, you had the passage of the quote unquote 13th Amendment and the passage of the 14th Amendment. So now what do you have? You have Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. Who was he assassinated by? What's his name? Booth? John Wilkes Booth?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, what was John Wilkes Booth? He was a Jesuit. Okay, just put that in the back of your mind. He was a Jesuit. Okay, now you have a nation that is saddled in debt. They have so much debt, they have no way of repaying it. What are they going to do? How are they going to get out of this mess? Well, geez, swoop in the saviors of society, the lawyers. Is there a reason you think maybe that Christ said, "Woe unto you, lawyers"? I think so, because they did not have the intent, the best intentions of the nation at their heart. Of course not, because they knew that if they could control the currency and the banking of the nation, they can control the nation. It doesn't matter.
I have a quick question. What is the distinction between a lawyer and an attorney?
A lawyer and an attorney?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question.
Those are two different things.
And a firm. I just went through a document with Kathleen. She never gave me the definition, but she said they're misrepresenting themselves 3 times on one document under firm, lawyer, and attorney.
Yep.
Right. Firm is just a business. Okay.
Right, but it's
lawyer is one who is knowledgeable on the law. One who speaks the law is a law sayer. Law sayer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. An attorney is one who attorns, to take from one man and give to another. Okay. Bar, British Accreditation Register, they're all attorneys for the crown to attorn their subjects.
Yeah.
To take from the subjects and give to the king.
that brings us to something I find is fascinating, right? Because going back here to my screen share, we just read here. Now, we pre-show, we were looking at some things, and I thought this was amazing. So under Chapter 11, so this is Title 8, United States Code, right? We know what United States Code is. It's man-made law. United States Code. And Chapter 11 says nationality. What's interesting, when you go through all of these, they all show repealed. Every last one of them. And here's what's fascinating, Kirk, and I went into I have a subscription to Case Text. This is where I do law research, court decision researches and stuff. Here's what it says. This was the last published was on 11/21/2024. So I don't know if something changed, if maybe this was never here and they just left it here because that's where those chapters are. But I did find it here under Chapter 12, immigration and nationality. And under Chapter 12, Part 1, under Subchapter 3, nationals and citizens of the United States at birth. So this is what we just talked about, right?
Mm-hmm.
The following shall be nationals and citizens of the United States at birth. A person born in the United States. Look what it says a person is. An individual or an organization. It doesn't say man or woman. It says individual or an organization.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's what it says as defined.
Individual what? Individual meaning one.
Exactly. Okay. Now, here's what I find is fascinating. Okay. So Kirk and I think a lot the same lines. I don't just read what I read and just take it to mean what I think it means. You got to define this stuff. I need to know exactly what your legislative intent was. So let's go to the definition.
Generally speaking, individual in the context of commerce and corporations, it is a member of a corporation, an employee.
Ooh, I love where you're going. Look at this. I did this research before. Under subsection 38, the term United States, except as otherwise specifically herein provided, when used in a geographical sense, that's important.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that right there. When used in a geographical sense, means the continental United States, Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Guam, the Virgin Islands of the United States, and the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands.
Those are all territories, because that's territorial jurisdiction is what geographical sense means.
Mm-hmm.
But notice it doesn't say anything about the states.
It also doesn't say United States of what?
Yeah.
America? Okay.
Those
So
are not
what
territories belonging to the United States Congress.
So what is this? That is the United States. What is it, Kirk? Inc.
Corporation.
All right,
But
go back to 1871. Right, this is our history.
Let's look at it a little bit, 10,000-foot view. Look at all of those territories. Do any of them are they settled? Do they have their own constitution? Are they independent sovereign nation states?
Maybe at the time that this was written, no, but
They're still not. None of them have their own constitutions. None of them are self-governed.
Nope.
They haven't been admitted to the Union as independent sovereign nation states. So
Nope.
those are territories that belong to the United States. They belong to us, all of the states.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Here's what's fascinating, right? Go back to where we were, 1871. Our nation is saddled in debt. The president was just assassinated. We've got the radical, his vice president was a Southern Democrat. We've got all of these problems. Well, what happens? Oh, here comes the Bank of England
Mm-hmm.
to swoop in and save the day.
Yep.
What do? They say, hey, we will give you money to take care of this, but we need collateral. Okay. Well, how do we do that? We don't have any collateral. How is it that we do that? Well, here's what we're going to do. You're going to pass a law. You're going to incorporate the term United States. The United States is now a corporation. And every state, if they want to survive, they will need to incorporate. Oh, but we're not going to stop there. Every county, if they want to survive, they are going to have to incorporate. Oh, and what we're going to do is we're going to compound the problem furthermore down the road. We're going to get to that here in a minute. So that's what happened. The Reconstruction Act of 1871 incorporated the United States. They set up the United States as its own incorporation, which is nothing more than the 10 square miles of Washington, D.C. That's it. So now we're going to call every man, woman, and child who is born on the soil of America a citizen, because now we can tell them what to do. Because when you go back to the Constitution, right? Look at the Constitution. What does it say Congress shall have power to do? Let me present my screen again. Congress shall have power to what? Under Article 1, Section 8, to regulate commerce with foreign nation and among the several states and with the Indian tribes. So this is what is commonly known as the plenary power of Congress to regulate commerce. There are a number of Supreme Court decisions that says, hey, if Congress has a specific goal, they can accomplish that so long as it falls within their power of the Constitution of regulating commerce. So, Kirk, if I create something, can I tell that something what to do?
Absolutely.
Okay. So if
law of creations, you're the sovereign.
Okay. So if Congress wants to accomplish a certain goal, i.e. collateralize and use the credit of the people for their own gain, how would they do that?
Well, they're not supposed to be emitting bills of credit. That's
They're not.
In Article 1, Section 9, a prohibition on emitting bills of credit.
It's right here. No capitation or other direct tax. No money shall be drawn from the treasury. Oh, we already have a no title and nobility.
Yeah, that's Article 1, Section 9, Clause 8.
Yeah, it's already there.
Where is it? Talks about not to be admitting bills of credit.
That's under the states.
Well, was it?
Yep, that's Section 10. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit.
Oh, there it is. Emit bills of credit.
Mm-hmm. Make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. We're going to get to that here in a second. All right. So if again, going back to my question, if I'm Congress and I've got this problem, we have debt out of our eyeballs. We have no way of getting out of this. The Bank of England is saying they're going to give us all of this money and we can fix our problems so long as we give them collateral. And they're telling us that they will accept the credit of the people as the collateral. Well, how are we going to do this? Good question. Let's create a new class of citizen.
Yep.
Let's call these people citizens, and then let's create all of these laws that apply to the citizens, and then we can use the labor of these people and the future labor of these people as the collateral to collateralize these quote unquote loans. So that's what they did. Yep. They did all of this 100% unconstitutional, 100% unlawful.
Right. Now, here's the thing about that word unalienable. See, the root of that word is lien. That's right. And they don't want us to pronounce it that way.
Right.
Right. Because then it's, well, you can't alienate them. No. It's unalienable for a reason. Means not able to place a lien upon our rights.
Right.
Our rights is our property. An aggregate of guaranteed rights is property. So that's what that's meant. And what are the guaranteed rights? The laws of nature, the right of personal security, the right of personal liberty, the right of private property. Oh, so what you did is you pledged the lives of these citizens of the United States. You placed a lien upon their rights. And if you look up lien, it is to put a lien on your rights and hold them as collateral until you pay the debt.
Yes.
That's why it's written in the Declaration of Independence as unalienable rights.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot place a lien upon these rights.
But they did it anyway.
Hold them as collateral for a payment of debt. No, I'm man, creation of God. These rights come from God, but that is the difference between the Saxon Christian, not Catholic Christian, the Saxon Christian, that in the ideology versus Catholicism, supposed Christian ideology. That's the distinction between it. Well, if you're under the king, it's a monarchy. It's Catholicism as an ideology. And, under the laws of the air, your soul entrusts that we're making sure that you're living a moral sound life there, and we're going to place a lien upon your rights because you can't seem to be able to exercise those rights, and we're going to put a lien on them anyways, and then you're going to pay us this debt.
Yep. This is what's so fascinating, you guys.
This is a thing that's happened over and over and over and over again in history. Clear back to like even 4000 BC. This isn't something new.
So I've got a couple of things we're going to talk about, and this is, I think, is a good point to bring up. I recently ordered this book. It's called, the title is Unimportant. This is written by P. Michael Yates. He lives in the UK, as far as I know. And he talks about how to get out of debt without paying a single penny. And he has a number of quotes in this book here from individuals who are within the banking sector. And what's fascinating to me is some of the time. Listen to some of these timestamps, okay? This first quote is from Sir Mervyn King, Governor of the Bank of England, 1725. When banks extend loans to their customers, they create money by crediting the customer's accounts. Okay. Here's another one. William Patterson, founder of the Bank of England, 1694. The bank hath benefit of interest on all monies which it creates out of nothing.
Yeah,
you guys getting the wind here? This is all long before what we're talking about ever took place.
Why can you pull this money out of my? Never mind.
Okay, Ralph Hawtrey. This is a former secretary to the Treasury here in the United States. Banks lend by creating credit. They create the means of payment out of nothing. John C. Calhoun. That's somebody we know, right, Kirk?
Yeah,
John C. Calhoun. This was in. He was a senator during 1841. It had been justly stated by a British writer that the power to make a small piece of paper not worth 1 cent by the inscribing of a few names to be worth $1,000 was a power too high to be entrusted to the hands of mortal man.
Mm-hmm.
You guys catching on what's going on here?
Wasn't he right?
Okay, so here's what I'm getting at. And this is why this is so important for all of us to understand. Post-Civil War, we have a whole slew of mess that was created. Fast forward to the 1900s, you have a whole nother slews of messes that were created. 1929, we had the stock market crash. 1933, we had a series of wholly unconstitutional laws. I use that term loosely. Were passed. One of which was the Emergency Banking Act of 1933. Another one was the Social Security Act of 1933. What did these acts do? Well, remember, post-Civil War, Congress created a new class of members, of citizens, and they were people who were born and believed that they were a citizen. Because, again, when you tell a lie over and over and over enough, eventually people believe it to be truth.
Yep.
Okay? So in 1933, they passed a number of laws. They created the Social Security Act. The Social Security Act created what? Social Security numbers.
Wait,
what do we need Social Security numbers for?
What about the birth certificate?
That's what I'm talking about. What do we need those two documents for? Because the Constitution clearly states that a census shall be done every 10 years. And it's still done every 10 years. People still... Every 10 years, you'll get people that are walking around, oh, I'm from the United States Census Bureau. We're just, how many people live in your home, this and that, and blah, 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 blah. So what if we have been told that the birth certificate and the Social Security card was for? Well, that's so the United States can track who's here. You see my little flag again? What's this flag, Kirk? This is my BS flag. I really need to get, right? I need to get one. I really do need to get one.
Right.
No, that is not what they're for. That is for what the Bank of England and the global banking cartel wants. We need collateral. It is the credit on the labor of the backs of the people. That's what we want.
What goes on the birth certificate? the long form, the big one, the the original start.
Yeah.
Your
Do you
feet.
know what goes on there?
Is it your soul prints?
Absolutely, the soul prints. They're stealing our souls.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So they put your footprint on there, and then they convince and hey, listen, I am not a hypocrite. I'm not going to stand here and say I didn't do this. I didn't know any better when my kids
Nobody
were
did.
born. You're in the hospital. You're excited. You just had a baby. They bring in all this documentation, say sign here, sign here, sign here, sign here, and that's you just go along with it because you don't know any better, right? So this is the problem that we have is fast forward to where we are today. Why are we seeing so many problems in the courts? Why are we seeing so many problems in the financial sector of the world? It's because every man and woman that's on this planet is treated as though they were created by the government.
Mm-hmm.
Because
property,
and it doesn't matter here. I'm just here to tell you, it doesn't matter how they style your name. They still treat you as though you were created by the government. Doesn't matter if it's an all caps name. Doesn't matter if it's an uppercase, lowercase. They still say, well, these statutes apply to you. How? Exactly. I see no evidence anywhere that this applies to me. You're coming after me as though I was created by you, and I was not created by you. I was created by God. My rights came from him. So explain to me how all of this is above board.
They're saying you opted in when you chose citizenship on your paperwork. It's all about paperwork and documentation.
It's all about consent, right? And this is it's consent by fraud.
Yes.
And Kirk has said this before many times. Fraud vitiates everything. Well, if you're not truthful, this is not a lawful contract for one thing. Because I have to have an understanding of what it is that I'm signing. If I don't have an understanding of what it is that I'm signing, this is not an enforceable contract. Where's the consideration? It's not here. It doesn't exist. So let's go back to what is lawful money? What is money that's lawful? Well, we already read it. We read it in the Constitution.
Yeah, read Article 1, Section 8, because there's some key words in there that we need to elucidate. We need to talk about and define and expand upon what those words actually mean. And that is fix the weights and measures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to pull it up on my screen here again so we can show. But
there's money.
Congress has the power, right? Under Article 1, Section 8, Congress shall have the power to, and there really should be a colon here because all of these things, they have the power to borrow money on the credit in the United States. We already know about that. To regulate commerce. We talked about that. To coin money, regulate the value thereof and of foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures. Okay, so does it state here, does that term to coin money mean they have the power to create their own bank? Or does it say that they have the power to charter a private corporation bank, which is what they did originally and which is what we have now with the Federal Reserve? The Federal Reserve is a private for-profit corporation, people. So according to the Constitution, that's no. This in my mind, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kirk, in my mind, this would fall to the Department of the Treasury to coin the money. Absolutely. We're just here making it. We're not going to distribute it. We're not going to give out loans. We're not going to do any of that stuff. We're just here making it. Because then again, when we look down in Section 10 of Article 1, the only thing that is acceptable in tender of payment of debts is gold and silver coin.
Yes.
So why is it then that we, the people, are hounded by debt collectors to pay using a Federal Reserve note? What's a Federal Reserve note?
Promise.
A promise. It's a debt note. It's a promise to pay. But who made the promise to pay? That'd be HJR 192, Congressional Act. That Congress made the promise to pay all the debts. But go back to that Article 1, Section 8.
Okay.
And let's break it down. Okay. To coin money. Okay. And then regulate the value thereof. Regulate. That's what statutes are supposed to be for, is to regulate. Okay. Mm-hmm. and a foreign coin. Really? Okay. All right. And then it says, and fix. I mean, as in set it in stone. So we have to do the fixing first, right? The standard of weights and measures. Okay. So I'm holding here a 1 troy ounce of what?
Silver. That's silver.
Yeah, it is silver. But the key I'm trying to get here is the weights and measures of what? Now, can the weights and measures of a Federal Reserve note, can you put it on a scale and weigh it? I suppose you could. It would have to be a
half an hour
sensitive scale. But what's the difference between the dollar bill and a $100 bill?
Nothing.
There's no real weight difference.
There is no weight difference. Nope.
So unit of measurement is actually what we're talking about, weights and measurements, right? So when we say 1 troy ounce is the measurement, but what's the weight? And then it's of what? It has to be gold or silver.
Yeah. I mean, and this is the debate that you had on, well, I mean, you were debating people who were putting in comments in the comments box, but essentially it's like, well, okay, well, what about digital currency? And what about all these other things here? Is like, well, this is the problem, guys. let me make it real simple. If I write Justice a note on this notepad and I fold it up, can that be hacked? Is there any digital record of that?
No.
Sometimes the oldest method of communication is the most secure. A good old-fashioned letter in an envelope.
Yeah, it's from one party to the next. You can't interfere unless you steal it and run away with it.
You physically steal it, right? It's the same thing is true if you've got a silver coin or a gold coin in your pocket or whatever the case may be. Is this can't be hacked. Someone cannot in the digital world steal this for their benefit.
Right.
Now it can be taken from you, you know, and I liked, who was it that said on your show? Was it Diesel D or was it somebody else that said, yeah, you want to take my gold and silver coin, you're going to get some couple of things of lead along with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or was that F3? Yeah. So
do you know why it has the ribs on the side of the coin?
I don't.
So part of the problem was when they were originally coining gold and silver coin was people were shaving off parts of the coin, wearing it down a little bit, and then creating, you know,
another
they would
coin.
take the scraps and accumulate gold. But then here's the coin. Oh, but I took, a tenth of an ounce off of the coin.
Right.
Interesting.
Makes
So
total sense.
that's where the origin of the ribs on the outside of a coin came from, because when somebody handed you a coin for tender payment of debt, you could look at the edge of the coin and go, hey, you shaved this. Let's put this on the scale. How much are you short?
Yeah.
You still owe me what you owe me.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
So that was the measurement, right? The weights and measurements, so that you could actually put the coin on a scale and weigh the coin to make sure it's 1 troy ounce.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's why they started stamping it as well, because you can't cut away the stamping, you could tell.
Yeah.
Here's a quarter from 1944.
Mm-hmm.
And so and for people that don't know, if you look on the edge of your coin, you can hear the difference in, a silver coin and a fake coin, because the edge of this one, you look, they're half copper or whatever the material mixture is now, and some kind of steel. And the silver ones, they sound very different when you clang them together, but copper, it's solid silver. You can tell what silver looks like. But
so I want to get to a couple of things before we wrap things up here. We're getting close to an hour and a half. I'd like to try and keep the show as close to an hour and a half as we can, but this is good. I feel like this has been a great discussion. I hope you guys have as well. For those of you who are with us live, and for those of you who are listening to our podcast or catching this later on, we really hope this information is useful. We just want to help you understand where we are and how we get to where we want to be. And here's the thing that has been hidden from all of us by design. If you can enslave the people, you can control what they do.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can't outright come and enslave the people. So how do we do it in a roundabout way? Well, we do it by creating debt slaves. How do we create debt slaves? Well, let's just make them believe that there's an unlimited, well, we shouldn't say unlimited. Let's just make them believe that the banks are the only ones who create money, and that if they need money to buy something like a house or a car or something that's expensive, they have to get a loan. And if they don't pay the loan back, then we're going to take back whatever it is that they use to buy that. They use that money to buy with, right? So here's how this process works. You go into a bank and you say, I want to buy a car. Car's $25,000. Bank says, okay, well, let's make sure you're credit worthy. Let's make sure you have a good job history. Let's make sure you have income. They put you through this whole rigid process. And yes, this is not legal advice. Thank you, Justice, for throwing that on the screen. Not legal advice. Do your own homework. You guys know the whole drill. But this is what happens. You're sitting there across from the loan officer and saying, this is what I want to do. And they pull up an application. They type in a bunch of stuff on their computer. And then they say, okay, here's the application. I need you to sign here. And we'll process this and see if you get approved. Okay. So they print off the application. You sign it. And then what happens? One of two things happens. You're either approved or you're denied. If you're approved, they print off the other terms. You sign some other papers again. And they give you the money. You go buy your car. You're happy because you got what you want. Well, at least you think you are. And then you go about your day. Well, what really happens behind the scene? So I have up on the screen here, just for those of you who are aware, you can find this under the Uniform Commercial Code. The Uniform Commercial Code is not a federal body of law. Let me make that very clear. It is not a federal body of law. However, what's interesting, this came from an international group of people. The same international banking cartel that has enslaved the United States since, let's call it 1812, put this out here. Okay, so why? Why would they put this out here? Why is this here? If they want to enslave us, why don't they just hide this? It's like, well, because they can't, and we'll get to that here in a minute. But we're going to enslave the people with legalese and words that don't make a lot of sense to people. And most people that will read this, their eyes will glaze over and be like, I don't care. Just give me my money. I'm going to go about my day. Yeah. Justice is waving because she's like, this stuff doesn't come very easily for a lot of people. And we know that and we understand that. So I have up on my screen, Uniform Commercial Code. This is Article 3, Section 104, negotiable instrument. Well, on the surface, a negotiable instrument, geez, what is that? It's like, is that like a tuba, or is that like a guitar or something like that? That's what I think of when I hear instrument. No, an instrument means something that is used to accomplish a purpose.
I think it goes back, primitively to wampum. You know what I mean? If the barter system, I'm going to negotiate with you. I'll give you some plumbing if you, fix my horse plow. You know what I mean?
That's how, when you look at the American society as it was, even prior to the War of 1812, after that, prior to the Civil War, there was a lot of bartering that went on. It was like, hey, I have planted corn and wheat and barley or whatever the case may be. I will trade you X amount for beef because you're a rancher, you're a cattle raiser, whatever the case may be. That was happening a lot. There was no money, there was no coin involved in that.
It's the best way to do business.
That was the bartering system was done. Mm-hmm. So here's under the Uniform Commercial Code. These are the definitions, and this is what you have to realize. And this is what really changed, like the aha moment for me recently. There was a question at the very beginning of the show. Let me just touch on this real quick. Gun and Wizard said, "What life changes have happened? Are you still helping people with lawsuits?" Yes, I am still helping people. And it's crazy how recently it's like everyone is coming out of the woodworks and saying, I need some help, and I'm happy to help as much as I can. because I've got the time. Ultimately, what happened was I was working for this employer. They terminated my position due to no fault of my own. Right in the middle of the Christmas season. December is a very busy month for me and my family. 4 of my 5 children have birthdays in that month. So it was crazy, and it really turned my whole world upside down. But I reached out to Justice, and I reached out to Erica, and I said, guys, I really feel like, over the last 2-3 years that we've been doing this, we've been having some fun just kind of doing this on the side. But I really feel like God dropped an anvil, and I'm not saying he really did it on his own. I'm just saying God dropped an anvil, metaphorically speaking, on my life. And as a result, it's like, hey, I need you to be the voice that you are to educate my children, to educate my brothers and sisters, not just here in the United States, everywhere that are willing to listen. We have people that join us from Australia, from Canada, from South America. This is not just a United States problem. This money thing is not a United States problem. This is a global problem, which is why guys like this guy here, Michael Yates, who's in the UK, says exactly the same things that we're talking about here. So Gun and Wizard, Justice and I, and Kirk, this is new to you, but we would love to invite you to be part of our alliance, as we're calling this, is we are launching our own website. We are launching our own association. And after much, we went back and forth, right, Justice, going over a number of different, what do we call this? What is this? And we decided to come up with the name, the American Association for Financial and Judicial Rights. There it is right there. That's our logo. Our website is currently being worked on right now. If you go to here, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to share what the tab is here. So this is our website here. You can see it says coming soon because it's not quite ready to go. But the web designer's working on it, and it's real simple, aafjr.org. And what we're going to do is we're going to open up a membership, a private members association, where we're sharing this information, we're sharing this knowledge, because when you truly understand the power that we the people have, that even though we have these evil banking cartels and these evil bar associations and all these people here that are trying to convince us that this doesn't exist, it's there and it works. And I know it works because I've done it. So going back to this whole thing, what is a negotiable instrument? Well, that's what a dollar, I hate to call it a dollar bill, but for lack of a better term, that's what it is.
It's what we use now. So what can you do?
It's a dollar of what?
Exactly. It's all it is it's a piece of paper. It's a piece of paper. And at the very top, what does it say? Federal Reserve note. What is a note? A note is a promise. Okay, so negotiable instrument. This is what a negotiable instrument means: an unconditional promise or order to pay a fixed amount of money. Okay, so when I hold a $1 bill, a $5 bill, $10 bill, $20 bill, $100 bill, doesn't matter. I have an unconditional promise to pay the face amount of whatever's on that piece of paper. So remember that quote that I read from one of the guys from the Bank of England that said if people realized that they could just sign their name to a piece of paper and it magically has $100,000 value, well, guess what? It does. Go back to my example. Remember when we go into the bank to get a loan, why do they have you sign documents? Why doesn't the bank just pull your credit, your job history, and go, yeah, everything looks good here. We've got the money. We're going to go ahead and give it to you. And once we've given you the money, then we will have you sign something promising to repay us. Why don't they do it that way? Anybody know?
It's a contract, right?
Yeah.
And then the thing is what are we signing there?
Well, here's
any loan, blah, blah, blah. It's a promissory note. And they're leading us to believe that they're loaning us money and that we're making the promise to pay the debt.
No.
Okay.
No.
So let's go in here.
Who made the promise to pay the debt?
Oh, I love where you're going with
this.
this.
Can only be discharged because there is no lawful money.
Right.
It's all been changed
Ooh.
since 1933.
You're promising to put your return for your time and energy back into their system, and that's where the value comes from.
It's okay. Congress made the promise to pay the debt, and so they allowed the Fed to create these Federal Reserve notes
Right
or
here.
negotiable instruments,
Yep.
right? That are also promissory notes.
Yep.
'Cause you can't pay a debt with a debt note.
It's
That's an
impossible.
oxymoron.
It compounds itself.
Right. And so then we get into, well, what is the promissory note and who made the promise to pay it?
Mm-hmm.
The banks, see, if this was actually functioning the way it was legislated and created, when we go to the bank and say, I need this loan, and we sign the promissory note, that's like a check,
Yep.
right? What we would think of as a check today, they're supposed to go cash that. And then they're supposed to use it off of the Social Security number, which goes into your trust account, and they're supposed to discharge the debt. But the way it works is we're supposed to create the debt first, and then you can discharge the debt. You can't just go in and basically use the promissory note like cash.
Yeah.
I mean, yes
It
and no.
supposed to be.
It doesn't exactly work that way. The mortgage is what supposedly creates the debt. And then one of the things that I found in my brother Bob Coy, I went through some of his mortgage paperwork stuff, and it even mentioned there that after this is all done, you've got a certain amount of time that you're supposed to come back and claim the money that's in the bank, because they cash the promissory note in. That money goes into the bank account. Then you're supposed to come claim the money from the bank account.
So
because the bank doesn't actually loan you any money. It's already our own money.
Here's what happens to make this real simple. So I have up on my screen here, again, this is all United States Code. We already know what this is. Title 12, United States Code 412, application for notes. Oh, look at that. Collateral is required. What is the collateral that shall be required? Well, they spell it out for us. The collateral security thus offered shall be notes, drafts, bills of exchange, or acceptances. All right. We've already talked about what a note is.
It's your
A
promise.
draft and a bill of exchange falls under the other definition of a negotiable instrument, which is an unconditional order to pay money. So that is, ladies and gentlemen, let me see if I have one here. I got this one. Let me open it up. I just got this in the mail yesterday. Yes, Freedom Works. It is all a Ponzi scheme.
At the highest level.
At the highest level. I just got this in the mail yesterday. Okay, I'm going to put this up here on my screen. This is, what is this?
LabCorp. It's a collection notice.
For how much?
I can't see.
$17.
$17.82.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is a negotiable instrument. It is an unconditional order to pay. Okay. They're demanding that I pay them $17.82. All right. I got your condition. I got your unconditional order. There's no other conditions that state that I have to do anything or they have to do anything in order to receive that. That's why it's an unconditional order to pay. So here's what happens in what Kirk was talking about. When I go into the bank, the reason why they have you sign stuff first before you receive money is because they take that promissory note, which is a negotiable instrument and is the thus collateral that shall be offered, and they send it, one of the banks, that as long as they're a chartered bank, they have access to what's called the Federal Reserve discount window. What's the discount window? All that is it's an exchange. These national banks, these credit unions, it doesn't matter who they are, they take these promissory notes, they send them to the Federal Reserve exchanges with them the Federal Reserve notes, which what we call money today, dollar bills. They then take that money and loan it to you as though it was the bank's own money. But here's the crazy part, Kirk, and I don't know if you even knew this. Maybe you did. Let's say, for example, it's a $25,000 car at a 6% interest for 7 years. And let's say you made those payments timely for the full amount, the full term of the loan for 7 years. So if you kept that for the full 7 years at the 6% interest, the total amount that you would repay would be like $34,000 or $35,000. Just throwing a number out there.
Yeah.
When the bank takes that promissory note and submits it to the Federal Reserve discount window, the Federal Reserve looks at that and goes, well, the mature note is actually worth $35,000. We're going to send the bank the $35,000. The bank then takes the $25,000 you need to buy the car and gives it to you, pockets the other $10,000, then starts sending you bills, unconditional orders to pay, the monthly amounts. So when it's all said and done, the bank will actually make an additional $10,000 on top of that note. Is any of this disclosed to any of us?
No.
No, it's not. So not only are they violating their own federal laws under the Regulation Z Banking Act, where it requires full and complete transparency and disclosure, they're also stealing your property when you, quote unquote, fail to repay the loan. But here's what I'm telling you guys, and this is what is fascinating that I just recently learned not too long ago. I'm jumping around a little bit, but this is important. And just so those of you who are like, man, my head is spinning, this is exactly what we're going to be sharing and we're going to be teaching people to do as a part of our association. Membership into our association is going to be very inexpensive, but you guys know me. I have never in the time that I've done this ever wanted to charge anything for anything that I teach people.
I'm the one that spurs him on, guys, just so you know.
Justice is like, you need to stop being so nice. You need to start people need to start paying you. And I'm like, I don't want to.
Well, people offer to donate and contribute, and he always turns it down. And I said, James, if somebody wants to contribute, for criminy sakes, you have a full-time job, you've got 5 kids, you're coaching, and you spend all your free time helping people for free. People need to give, accept the give, because they feel like they want to be able to contribute somehow, and they can't with knowledge, so they want to with dollars, and there's nothing wrong with it. So with him losing his job, I'm like, there's nothing wrong with creating an arm of the justice revolution for those who want to contribute or want further education and can help you further your cause in educating the public and helping people in these dire situations that they're in court. There's nothing wrong with it. So we're not stopping the justice revolution videos or anything like that. It's an arm that's
keep going.
Yeah. So and we're going to create the alliance, like Kirk to be an extended partner for his specialty. Somebody can go to Kirk for help, or whomever globally that has been having success and has intelligence and has been studying, and all this information has been hidden. Sorry to cut you off, James.
No, you're fine, and I really appreciate that. That's why I'm saying it's taken 2.5 years and a month and a half of being quote unquote jobless, because I never really was jobless, right? All I was doing was trading my time for Federal Reserve notes for promises to pay, and I never realized that, never knew it. And Kirk is smiling. He's like, dude, I knew this all along. I should have just told you that. All right, going back to my example. When you get a bill in the mail, this is a negotiable instrument by law and by definition. So Kirk brought this up under House Joint Resolution 192. We were supposed to be able to discharge this under our trust account. But wait a minute, what's happened to people who've tried to do that? And the people that come to mind are Christopher Hauser and some other individuals like that, where they were taking IRS documentation, or they were adding the Federal Reserve Bank routing number with their secret trust account number onto the bottom of these things. What they were doing is they were taking this bill of exchange, and instead of leaving it as a draft or a bill of exchange, they were adding numbers to the bottom, like what you see here, the numbers on the bottom of the payment coupon here. They were adding their own numbers to that and creating a check. Well, the definition of a check, when you read it under the UCC, is that you're directing a financial institution to pull funds from a specified account. And if there's no funds in that specified account, well, that's banking fraud. That's check fraud. Okay. Yeah. That's why he's in jail. That's why he's been in jail. That's why he'll continue to be in jail if he keeps doing stupid stuff like that.
Is he in jail?
I don't know if he still is, or I know he was once or twice. I have no idea. I really don't care, honestly. Here's what's interesting, though. There is a way to quote unquote discharge this, and it's right here in front of our face and we never knew it. So here under Article 3, Section 205 of the negotiable instruments, right, commercial code, this says a special endorsement with an I, blank endorsement, or an anomalous endorsement. The one I want you to pay attention to is the special endorsement, which is right here under letter A, Section A. It says, if an endorsement is made by the holder of an instrument, whether payable to an identified person or payable to bearer, and the endorsement identifies a person to whom it makes the instrument payable, it is a special endorsement. Here's the kicker. When specially endorsed, an instrument becomes payable to the identified person and may be negotiated only by the endorsement of that person.
Yep.
What does that mean?
Yes, that's what I'm asking.
Okay. Let's break this down. If an endorsement, so this is underlined here. Let's click on this and see. An endorser is a person who makes an endorsement. Well, that's helpful. An endorsement means a signature other than that of a signer as maker, drawer, or acceptor. All right. Let me break this down.
On the back of like checks, what are you signing? That signature on the back, what are you doing?
It's your endorsement.
Endorsing it.
You're
with an I.
endorsing the check.
Right.
Okay. So an endorsement is someone other than the maker, drawer, or acceptor. Okay. So the maker is whoever creates the instrument.
Yep.
In this case, it's LabCorp. Okay. They created this instrument. They actually endorsed this instrument because this logo right here is also an endorsement.
So
right?
Some people refer to the bottom portion there as a coupon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's actually a voucher.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, what's a voucher?
It's speaking for something.
No.
It's vouching.
No.
Vouching.
No,
Okay.
A voucher. So, like sometimes you'll have people in need that'll go to a certain entity, whatever association, business, corporation, and they'll do a voucher to a certain place to go get clothes or food or
Right.
a voucher. It's prepaid.
Right.
So that right there, what that document is showing, and it's a bill. It's already been paid. You have to endorse the voucher. You're cashing the voucher. You're telling them, yes,
Right.
okay, thanks for sending me the voucher. Let me endorse the voucher and I'll send it back to you.
Okay. Yeah. Because a voucher.
And discharge the debt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So this is how this works. Again, we're breaking this down, right? So if the signature is made by the holder of an instrument. Now, the holder of an instrument is this is actually what holder means, physically holding the instrument. So if an invoice, for example, is an unconditional demand for money. So if I send Justice an invoice, let's say I do some work for Justice and I say, Justice, I'm demanding that you pay me now $50. And I send her that. I created the instrument. I send it to her. She is now the holder of the instrument because she's holding on to it.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you are when you have cash in your wallet. You are the holder of that Federal Reserve note.
Right.
Now, remember, it says right here, whether it's payable to an identified person or payable to bearer. So a Federal Reserve note doesn't denote who it's payable to. So it's payable to the bearer. The bearer is whoever has it. It's payable to them. Right? Now, a special endorsement, and this is the key. This is our get out of jail free card, so to speak, guys. When you receive a bill in the mail, and I don't care who it's from, whether it's a tax bill, a property tax bill, a bill for your cell phone, a bill for your car, a mortgage, it doesn't matter what it is. They're all negotiable instruments. And all that this is saying is that you need to learn how to sign it. And then you can send it back to the person that's entitled to enforce it. And they are required by law to discharge the amount. Oh my gosh.
So do those say it and it's somewhere in the fine print that it's voucher, or this is undisclosed secrecy again?
No, actually, sometimes, and I've witnessed this myself. If you look down there, we're kind of sometimes where it's perforated a little bit.
Yes.
There's some really fine print. It'll say voucher.
Okay.
Sometimes, not always.
His might not.
Yeah, this is. I mean, it depends on what it is. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Right.
But
for all intents and purposes, it's always a voucher, whether
Yeah.
it says it or not.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And this is why I want you guys to understand this. And hold on one second, Justice, before you
Okay.
get to your question. Again, how do we enslave the masses? We let's make this simple and easy for them. Like right here, I'm looking at this bill. It says pay your bill online. Well, wait a minute. If I pay my bill online, it doesn't give me an option to specially endorse this.
Bingo.
So how am I paying my bill? Well, I'm paying my bill with Federal Reserve notes. I'm paying a debt with a debt. That's impossible. But that's how they want you to believe the system works. So this is why I'm saying it, guys. I don't look at a bill that I get in the mail the same every way. I used to get something in the mail. I'm like, oh crap, I don't have the money for this. Where am I going to come up with the money for this? Now this one's for $17. I mean, that's trivial, but sometimes you get some pretty hefty medical bills. Sometimes you get, a property tax bill that's pretty good size, or an IRS bill, or your mortgage payment, whatever that amount may be. What I'm here to tell you guys, this stuff works, and I know it works because I've done it. And I'm not just telling you this. I'm not blowing smoke up your rear end. I'm saying this actually works. When you learn how to endorse stuff, and this is what we're teaching people, and I'm not trying to purposely hide this, because it's not something that's easy that I just know nobody else does. I mean, this has been out there for years. Matter of fact, the banks themselves have been doing this. So right here where it says, if an endorsement is made by the holder of an instrument and it's not a special endorsement, it's a blank endorsement. So when we sign that promissory note, remember, the bank created the note, they slide it across the table, sign here. You have now endorsed that in blank because it just has your signature on it. That's what gives the bank the authority to take that note and give it to the Federal Reserve Bank to exchange it for Federal Reserve notes.
So now you've got the banks for mobile deposit. You're not endorsing them anymore. You are writing for deposit only to whatever institution.
Or pay to the order of your name. Or see, here's what I do, and I have no problem with this. So when I get a bill, okay, so here's one right here. These people spelled my name wrong, and that's fine. This bill is to me, James. My last name is Tracy. For those of you, it's not the Patriot. That's just what I call myself. My last name is Tracy. But they spelled my last name T-R-A-C-T. Tract. Okay. I am the holder of this note, of this instrument. So I'm going to go ahead and endorse this and send it back to these people. And I'm going to say, pay to the order of James Tract for the settlement and discharge of this account by my name, and the way it goes. Now, here's the thing. A lot of these people are stupid that get these things. They have no clue what this means. But even though the UCC is not a federal base of law, every state in the union has a UCC code in it, and it's enforceable. And I know that because I've done it and I've seen it. There are other pieces of the negotiable instruments article that are just powerful. We talked about the special endorsement. Let me talk about two others real quick, and then we'll get to your question, Justice. The first is here, Article 3, Section 3-11, accord and satisfaction. What does that mean? Essentially, if I write a letter that accompanies my instrument, or I write on the instrument that says, your acceptance of this instrument constitutes accord and satisfaction of your claim, the claim is discharged. They have no rights to keep pursuing you for this.
So if you fill that out and you endorse it and send it back to them, it's done, right?
Correct.
Now, are you talking about sending it back to the one who sent it to you, or
Correct.
do you send it to that?
Because again, under the UCC, who has the power to enforce the instrument? The one who made the instrument, the maker, the drawer, the acceptor, right? So in this case, for this bill of exchange, it would be LabCorp. So they have the authority to enforce this. So I specially endorse this. I add a couple of things on there. One of those is without recourse. That's important. Send it back to them. Why would we want to add without recourse to our endorsement? Well, there's a couple of reasons why. The banks do that. Well, okay, so if the banks are doing that, and if I, as one of the people, have a right to banking too, well, I want to make sure I'm doing to protect myself. Without recourse means you can't come after me and sue me for non-performance of this instrument. I performed. The ball's in your court, dude. And so, like this one right here that I just got, I've already specially endorsed.
Voucher, I endorsed it and send it back to you.
Exactly. I've already specially endorsed it and sent it back. They've sent me another letter. Guess where this letter is going? Right in the circular filing cabinet.
So this is my question. What happens when, as you said, they don't recognize it? Because obviously this is deep-seated stuff.
Real simple. And we're honestly, we'll have to do another show on this because we're getting at it, because there's two things. The things that I wanted to point out was, the first one is accord and satisfaction. The second one is under here, discharge and payment under Part 6, 3-603, tender of payment. If tender of payment of an obligation to pay an instrument is made to the person entitled to enforce the instrument, I endorse it and send it back to them. And the tender is refused. Kirk, can I get you to read this for me? Can you see that?
There is discharge.
Oh, there is discharge. We actually went over this before, Justice.
I remember.
Yeah,
there
that's a principle, right? If you make an offer to pay the debt, which they gave you the voucher, and you endorse it and send it back to them, and they refuse it. So even in like this actually happened when I was working at a wrecking yard and stuff, and we had a guy come in who brought 12 checks to pay the bill. And at first, the boss was like, well, no, this, da, 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 da. And he's like, but you know what? Before making any final decision here, let me talk to my attorney. And this was back in, 1992.
Mm-hmm.
So he talked to an attorney. Attorney said, no, you have to accept that because that's payment in full. And if you refuse payment in full, they don't owe you the debt. So we ended up taking the guy's 12 checks to pay the debt over a year.
And why didn't he want to?
Huh?
Your boss, why didn't he want to take the checks?
Well, because, just like anybody else, going to sell you something, I want paid for it right now. But this guy was trying to pull a fast one and get my boss to go, no, I'm not accepting that. He already knew that if he refused to accept the payment in full, that's the key.
He wasn't, and here's the thing is, he wasn't pulling a fast one. He just knew the law and he was enforcing the law. There's
by pulling a fast one, I was pulling a fast one on my boss who didn't know.
Yeah.
He was ignorant, right?
Yeah. I mean,
thankfully, he's like, pause, give me a day or two. Let me talk to an attorney about this before I make a final decision. Because, he at least covered his butt and said, before I make a final decision.
Mm-hmm.
So about 2 days later, we called him up and said, okay, you know what? Bring those checks in. And they were all written one a month for a certain amount, and it covered the whole debt.
Yeah.
So he had to accept it because the attorney said, if you refuse it, he doesn't owe you anything. So that's what that's referring to.
Here's
the don't accept the payment, doesn't matter. It's discharged.
And here's the interesting piece too, right? We talked about discharge, but this is the piece, to the extent of the amount of the tender.
Yes.
Now, that's important to remember because, again, let's say it's a credit card bill, right? You got a credit card that say it's got a $10,000 balance and the minimum payment is $200. And the credit card company sends you a bill for the $200. And you endorse it and send it back, and you don't do anything else. You don't write in an amount. You don't say this amount is tendered for the full amount. Nothing. You just send it back. Well, that debt is discharged to the amount of the tender, which would be the $200. So whatever was left over would still be owing. Now, however, if you endorse it and you write for the full settlement and discharge of this account in the amount of blah, 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 the total amount, now it's discharged for the full amount. So that guy wasn't pulling a fast one. He was smart. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
And this to answer your question, Justice, what happens when people refuse this? Well, it's real simple. We have recourse. They don't. This is all administrative crap, right?
Yes.
And again, this is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about doing anything that's illegal or unlawful.
Right.
These are their rules.
Right.
I'm playing the game by their rules.
This is how they play. Absolutely.
And they're refusing to do this. One of my mentors, my early mentors, and I still talk to him every now and again, is Randy down in Texas. Do you know Randy Kirk? He does the Rule of Law radio. Yeah, you might like to listen to him a few times. He has a couple things that he says. He's mainly dealing with public servants, and he says, "I always have a rule. I never ask my public servant to do something the law does not compel them to do. So when they don't do it, I have a cause of action."
Yep.
So I can sue them.
Performance upon their duties, the contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I just did that to a judge here a month ago. I said, I'm demanding specific performance under your oath to the Constitution, uphold, support, and defend the Constitution. Because I just asked her if she got an oath of office in accordance with Article 6, Clause 3 of the Constitution for the United States of America. Well, I do have an oath, but that didn't actually answer the question. To the Constitution in accordance with Article 6, Clause 3.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is none of them do.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
None of them have a legitimate oath.
They
But
don't.
she says, "Oh, yes, I have an oath. Okay, fine. I'm demanding specific performance." You're
So-
impersonating the government official if you don't.
Right. And they all are.
And they all are.
Absolutely.
Because they can't produce it
So-
for you. Most of them haven't filed it either.
Right. But the thing is we cannot force them to do the right thing.
Right.
Now, listen to the words that I use here, but we can hold them responsible. A lot of people use the word accountable. Accountable has to do with accounting.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about able to respond in proper manner. Justice, right? Because justice is to be without sale, denial, or delay. And if the Constitution or Bill of Rights specifically states one thing, and any part of the government, especially like the executive branch, has done something other than that, the judicial branch is supposed to provide oversight. And like I asked the judge, I said, well, you're supposed to do this sui sponte, on the spot. The second you've been made aware, Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2, that if a state is a party to a case, then the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction, as in the case is supposed to originate in the Supreme Court of the United States of America. So this court lacks all original jurisdiction. So I'm demanding that you dismiss this case for lack of original jurisdiction. You've been made aware. I've cited the law. You're supposed to be bound to know this and support it. I demand specific performance. Now, they're in breach of contract. Not only are they in breach of contract, they're denying justice. Because justice, again, without sale, denial, or delay. That's clear back to the Magna Carta.
Mm-hmm.
To no man will we sell, to no man will we deny nor defer right or justice. Plain and simple.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that again,
I'll hold you responsible.
So-
Don't play that game with me that you're going to do whatever the hell you want to do, and I have to catch you if I can. This is where knowledge is power, folks.
so let me get back to your question. Let me get back to your question, Justice.
Okay, hold on. Did she dismiss it?
No, she did not.
Oh. Okay. So keep us
I just
updated
filed
on
my
that.
paperwork yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keep us updated on that one.
Oh yeah, this is fun for Kirk. He enjoys this stuff. I think he goes. He's one of those guys, like you said. He takes the license plates off his car and drives around. They left him alone for 2 years, and then I'm willing to bet it was somebody who's fresh out of the academy.
Yep.
Oh, look at this joker. I'm going to pull him over.
Mm-hmm.
So Kirk's like, all right, you want to dance, pretty boy? Let's dance.
and what's real funny here is the gentleman, the officer that pulled me over 2.5 years ago. He showed up in assistance, right? And as soon as he saw me, his face kind of went pale, looking down at the ground. I'm like, "Hey, Officer Wiggins, how you doing?
Hey,
You
man.
remember me, right?" Yeah, he has to remember me because he got to sit in the hot seat twice and let me cross-examine and grill him and make him look like an idiot in front of everybody in the courtroom. And said, "Hey, why don't you explain to this guy, why you didn't file all them traffic charges last time and why the prosecutor didn't file them last time?" You remember, right? Oh, yeah, I remember, as he's ducking his head. And
yeah.
So he knows.
So
the rookie didn't.
The rookie had no clue. So, Justice, here's to answer your question. What are our remedies if they don't accept this stuff? What do we do? Well, there's a couple things. You can do nothing and put the ball in their court. So again, if it's something for like a credit card or a car or your home or something of that nature, they're absolutely going to hound you, or they're going to start doing it again.
Right.
And so you're creating your administrative record. This is what we started our entire show on. This is why our Telegram group is Affidavits 101. You create the administrative record. We have been led to believe affidavits mean nothing. And I'm here to tell you that's absolutely incorrect. When you stand in honor as a man or a woman, your affidavit, sworn under penalty of perjury, is nothing is higher than that. And whoever is on the receiving end of that affidavit, if they don't rebut that word for word, I don't care what some stupid judge says in a black robe in whatever kangaroo court you're in, that's the law. That's God's law in commerce. So when you stand in honor and you endorse these things according to the way the law is written, according to the Uniform Commercial Code, and you endorse it and send it back to them, and they refuse to accept it, well, it's right there. It's discharged. So if they still hound you, my next step is I'm going to send them an affidavit and says, hey, on such date, I endorse this. I sent it back. Here's photocopies of it for you. According to this, the claim is discharged. And unless you can rebut this word for word in affidavit form, you have no claim, and you must. The law compels you to discharge this. I'm making my record. Yeah, go ahead. Did you have something you wanted to add, Kirk?
Yeah, hold on. There it is. How come
I would say present.
Here, entire screen. Let's just do that. This one. I've only got 3 screens here. Okay, I got to move that. Okay, so this is a dissolve your debt book. I'm just curious if this is what you would say is legitimate.
So I have seen that type of an endorsement right there, and I have not seen any remedy because of this. This is what the Christopher Hausers of the world were doing, and this is what was getting them in hot water. See, he put down here under the signature by John Q. Doe, EIN 12345, authorized representative. I mean, what this is they're taking pieces of what the UCC states, but then they're adding in stuff that's, what I think you would affectionately coin, Kirk, as schmoo. I don't see any evidence of it. Deposit to the United States Treasury and charge to the same. I mean, I did this a long time ago. I did this once. Nothing ever came of it. Nothing ever happened. I'm like, okay, so this doesn't work. Now, the reason why I do know that endorsing the bill of exchange and sending it back to the person entitled to enforce it, I know that works because I did that on one of my credit cards. I got a bill from American Express. I endorsed it, sent it back to them, and wouldn't you know, lo and behold, they accepted it.
Really?
Yes. They did.
They credited his account.
Credited my account. Yep.
For $600, right?
No, they actually credited it for the entire amount. It shows the remaining statement balance is 0.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So
I'm most definitely interested in learning how you did it, because I have tried it this way.
You probably didn't have success that way either, correct?
If you read the book in there, it says, hey, when you do this, you might get that IRS notice that says, hey, everybody's got to pay taxes. Well, this doesn't have anything to do with taxes. Number two, that this may be a civil penalty of $5,000. And guess what? It comes in the form of just like a bill, a voucher. And you just fill it out, like the book says, send it back to them. And that lets them know that you want the debt discharged. And in my mind, it's the IRS wanting, well, just pay us $5,000 and we'll do what we're supposed to do to begin with.
So here's something that's interesting.
Says keep going until it gets finalized, and that's where we stopped. I didn't read the rest of the book there. I forgot it. We should have kept going, and I'm thinking after a couple of more tries after that, it would have gotten discharged. But
yeah,
definitely interested in learning how you've done it, because you've been successful. But I have had other people be successful at doing it this way and having their power bill paid, their cable bill paid, cell phone bill paid. So there is that.
Yeah. So so again, this is everything that I want to share. And this is why, after talking with Justice and Erica and other close advocates, it's like, hey, we want to create the private membership association and educate people on how to do this. And because again, I think, Kirk, right? I mean, the global banking cabals that are really the thorn in Trump's side for what he's promised he was going to do from the beginning.
Let me interrupt you really quick. And it's really important to create the private membership association to protect us. So we'll talk about that in detail somewhere else. But
yeah, so that's more for our protection, and it's more so for really understanding, hey, we are we're an association. We're all in this together, and we want to help everybody. And we want to create the financial abundance. And the same thing is true in the courts. I have actually seen individuals who have gone in certain situations and said, hey, I am instructing the court, since you guys have created a bond in my name, I'm instructing you to settle and discharge this and present me with some type of a draft so that I can endorse it and call it good.
One of the key words that I've learned is called liquidate.
Yeah.
I'm here to liquidate this case.
Yep. Okay, here it is right here.
I haven't tried it yet.
So here's one other thing I'm going to show you real quick, and then we'll wrap this one up just so everybody knows. So when you get something from the IRS, all right, when you get something in the mail, a demand for money. What is a demand for money? It is a bill of exchange. This is straight from I'm on the Internal Revenue website right here, irs.gov. This is the Internal Revenue Manual. This is section 3.8.45. Let me blow this up a little bit to make it easier for you guys to see. This is section 3.8.45.5.10.1, bill of exchange. Here's what's interesting. If a bill of exchange or registered bill of exchange is received from a taxpayer authorizing the campus to settle their account through FedWire, send everything received to the following address. So when I get a bill from the IRS, I endorse it. And in this case, remember, whenever you endorse the bill, it becomes payable to who? Whoever you endorse it to. So I endorse it to the United States Treasury. Sign my name. I mail it to this address. I got 2 bills for a frivolous filing fee, $5,000 for each one. I got 2 other bills that were piddly, and I just mailed them off. I mailed the $5,000 fee off 45 days ago. I've heard nothing. And I mailed the other one.
The IRS letter?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, civil penalty of $5,000.
Yep. But again,
you just endorse it and send it back to him. Here you go.
I endorsed it.
$5,000 to do your job. Okay, I'll give you $5,000. How else are you going to get paid?
I endorsed it, and I sent it to this address right here. I sent it to this address right here. Haven't heard anything from them since. Generally speaking, if you go longer than 30 days, when you get something like that, you are going to be hounded by the IRS.
Oh, yeah.
They are the most brutal collection planet or agency on the planet.
They
But
are a planet.
it's right here. This is their own manual. If a bill of exchange is received from a taxpayer. Now, again, this is your game, your rules. I'm just playing it by what you guys have said. I the man am not a taxpayer.
This is terms and conditions of a contract.
Exactly. But my social security card name, according to you, is a taxpayer. Sure. Here you go. This is what I'm talking about, guys. I want to educate my brothers and sisters. This has been my goal from the beginning when we had the whole madness with everything that happened in 2020 and 2021, all of that stuff. So this is why we were creating a private membership association, because we're doing this in the private. Nobody has any business of knowing about what we're doing behind closed doors because it's private.
Mm-hmm.
It's none ya, as I would say to my kids, none ya
None your
freaking
business.
That's right.
Yep.
Or nacho.
Nacho. It's nacho business. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I wanted to share. This is what we wanted to get off. Kirk, thank you so much for joining us. Here. I said I wanted to keep it to an hour and a half, 2 hours and 12 minutes later.
Right.
But you know what, though? I enjoyed this conversation. I really hope this information was eye-opening and enlightening. I do want to just touch on a couple of things. I mentioned that I've had a number of people reach out recently, and I think this is part of why God dropped the anvil in my life. It's like, people need your help. And I had a gentleman that was referred to me from a mutual friend of ours, of mine and Justice's. And this poor man, it was being put through the ringers. Kirk, I called you about this yesterday. He did what he thought he should do. Went out and got an attorney. And basically what was happening is this man was receiving Social Security benefits, and somebody claimed he shouldn't have. And there was an investigation started. Long story short, there was no probable cause. There was no victim. There was no mens rea, as we talked about. And the U.S. Attorney's Office was fishing and said, we're investigating you, and if you come clean, we won't throw you in jail for 4 years. And this stupid attorney convinced him to accept a plea deal. He was willing to go to jail for 18 months, willing to pay restitution of over $500,000. And I said, frick, no, that's absolutely not going to happen. So this is where I'm saying is, we have all been indoctrinated to believe that if we have a legal problem, we go get a lawyer. The lawyer will help us, but no. What is the lawyer's first allegiance to? Kirk mentioned it, to the crown, to the bar, to the court. You are third in line. You're not first.
Never to the client. It is never to the client.
Never to the client.
That's corpus juris secundum. What is it? Attorney 747.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, their first line of allegiance is basically to the court, right?
Yep.
To the state, to the court, but never to the client.
Nope.
But that's why they do their notice of appearance, and then they admit jurisdiction and then take leave, so that everything that happens to you instead of them.
Yep. So this is why, I called him. I mean, he at first when we talked, I was like, shoot, I don't know how we can unravel this, but I said, get me all the information that they gave you. It's the discovery file. I combed through all of that, and I was like, all of this evidence was obtained unlawfully. I see no search warrants in here anywhere. I see no warrants authorizing surveillance. I see no affidavit of probable cause. I see none of this. I mean, even if they were going to come after your corporate fiction, the corporate you, that stuff is still required. It's not there. So this is the world we live in, people. You have to know that these people, that they think they're doing their constitutional duty. That's the sad part, is they think they are. But What they're doing is they're dragging good men and women through the mud, ruining lives, destroying reputations.
Yep. They're preying on people's ignorance, the people that they employ.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They think, well, yeah, I'm going to work here and I'm going to do this and I'm going to follow that. And I mean, like there's that one woman out there who used to work there for the IRS and stuff.
Yeah.
And one day she's like, somebody asked me about, show me the law that says we have to pay taxes. And so she kind of did a deep dive and then was asking around, and then all of a sudden she's getting fired.
Yeah.
Because nowhere in the IRS code does it say we have to pay taxes. What it does say is it's voluntary.
Yes. That just came out again. And also Steve Bannister has claimed that, numerous IRS agents. Aaron Russo, a famous Hollywood director, did an entire documentary on it.
Yeah.
And people are still, I pay it because,
Because why can't you be the good little can't you be the good little debt slave and just pay what we tell you to pay because we tell you should pay it? Exactly.
So does that mean like Trump? When Trump and Hillary Clinton had the little argument about the taxes things, and I take the same advantages that you do,
right,
Miss Clinton,
because I get it.
So they were actually telling us right there, neither one of them pay any freaking taxes.
Right.
This is what they're doing, guys.
The problem is they pick us off like flies and they show up at your house, and it's very intimidating. It's battery, emotional, physical, everything. They're criminals.
Yeah.
Criminals. So what?
Well, again, there is strength in numbers, and so like with this gentleman that I'm helping, I could not live with myself if somebody asked me for help and I thought I could help them. I told them, I said, I'm being honest with you. There's no guarantee that this is going to work. There's no guarantee that they're not going to still make you show up to federal prison to start your sentence. It's like, but you never know unless we try. And so we're going to work. We're going to file a motion to vacate this judgment based on ineffective assistance of counsel. Clearly, I told Kirk this. I said after I spoke with this gentleman and learning more about his situation, and I said, well, wait a minute. What prompted the investigation? Well, there was an anonymous tip. Okay. An anonymous tip is just an anonymous tip. There still has to be testimony from somebody claiming that you wronged the system or you wronged them. And I said, who was this? He said, well, I know exactly who it was. It was somebody I used to work with, and they found out from one of my bosses. I was like, oh, okay, so you're telling me your boss committed a felony in disclosing your private medical information with someone else who then went and told on you to the very agency that's providing you benefits, and now they're trying to prosecute you? Tell me what's wrong with this situation.
Well, and it's already all his money anyways, because it's coming out of the Sestake Trust.
Exactly. I know. That's why I'm like, so anyway, we're going to file a motion to vacate everything that he did because he didn't know what he was doing. It was not disclosed to him. Ineffective assistance of counsel. We're going to try and unravel this and do what we can. All I'm going to say is everybody pray for us, pray for him, pray for his wife. The poor man has been run through the ringer. His reputation has been torn, and all he did was he got injured while he was on the job. And what prompted this again was there was a little girl who was going to fall and hit her head and possibly die at a playground area. And he jumped in to save her, and he hurt his back even more. So he did a good thing. And because he did a good thing, they're trying to throw him in jail. And I can't live with that. So anyway.
And they like to pick on the weak.
Yeah.
They do.
Well, that's the nature of it.
They do.
They don't want a good fight. They want an easy
Bunch
fight.
of schoolyard bullies.
Yeah.
Yep.
They need to be taught a lesson.
Yep, they do. So with that, you guys, we're gonna sign it off. I've got to run off to some other things here. Kirk, thank you so much for joining us. I really feel like I feel like your insight is invaluable, and I really appreciate your willingness to join on such a late notice. Justice, thank you. We've been texting back and forth with Erica. She's up to her neck in snow. We'll catch her next time, but she's just as every bit a part of this as well. In making this association and this alliance a success. So I am hopeful by the next time we do a show that we will have launched our website. You guys will notice that Justice posted in our affidavits group a poll, a number of say, hey, what prompted you to join our group? Was it this? Was it this? Was it this? That's really going to help us in determining what education and videos and documentation we put together to help you guys. Really what I envisioned with this association was one of two or three things is for those of you who are a lot like me that, hey, if I can learn and digest the information, I can handle this myself. We want to give you those tools and we want to give you those resources. For those of you who are like Kirk runs a Wednesday night workshop on his Patreon group. For those of you who want a little more of a group setting, it's like, hey, help me understand this or bring your problems that we can discuss and help others with. We're going to do something along those lines as well. And then for those of you who really need I don't want to call it hand holding, but you know what I mean. More one-on-one, yeah, Justice, more one-on-one help with your particular situation, whether it's you're in foreclosure or you're in a situation with a court battle or whatever it may be.
Or you can't absorb and retain it.
Yeah, or you need help writing legal documents. I love writing legal documents. So if you need something like that, we can talk with that on a one-on-one, case-by-case basis. But now knowing what we know, money is of no importance, right? Because we do not want that to be a detriment as to why you can't get help. And if we can make this work, we're going to make it work one way or another.
Right.
So with that, you guys, I'm gonna sign it off. Thank you so much, Justice. Anything you want to say before we take off?
No, people stay in prayer and stay blessed. And people that come at you with anger, look at them with love, because they're making us do this, and we really need to just love on one another and come together.
Yeah. So sometimes that anger really is out of just frustration,
pain, right? Like an injured dog.
Injured dog. Yep, absolutely.
And that's what we're trying to help alleviate. Now, my hope, and I have a lot of hope, you guys, my hope is that over the next couple of weeks, over the next month or so, with the changes that are going on with the political scene, with Trump and everything there, my hope is that he's really starting to unravel all of this. But I'm a very optimistic person. Ask my wife. I'm a glass half full kind of a guy. This mess is so massive. I don't see how one man or one man's team can unravel this in a 4-year term. I don't. There's so much that's going to have to happen. So we still have to educate ourselves. We have to know how to play the game within the system as long as the system is still around. And then once I'm optimistic. I really am.
Right. He showed us the corruption of the courts on purpose.
Oh, absolutely. He did that. He took one for the team. But look what happened. The Supreme Court stepped in like it should have and said, get this crap out of here. So
don't you think that they kind of had a little plan going with what's going on with the Supreme Court? And that, hey, I'm going to go through all this stuff down here. When it comes to you, you're going to uphold the Constitution. You're going to do some research and dig in, just like in the New York State Rifle Pistol Association versus Bruin. No, the right to keep and bear arms comes from nature as the right to self-defense. Blackstone's commentaries on the law of England.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing that gets under my skin.
Nature as the fundamental law.
Yep.
These people who think that they get quote unquote convicted of one of these supposed crimes, and now they're not allowed to keep and bear arms. On what planet are we living? That is absolutely not true. So, anyway, you guys, with that, I'm going to sign off. We'll catch you next time. Kirk, thank again, brother. We'll talk soon.
Kirk, good to see you.
Thanks, James. Thanks, Justice.
Okay.
Take care, everybody. God bless you all.
God bless.